We're back at you with gloves off, and today we have a living legend of Kenpo Karate, Grandmaster Huck Planas. Thank you for being here.
No problem, Paul. Glad to do it.
And thank you for doing what you're doing. Thank you for continuing to teach and express and bring people back to
Well,
what
I just
Kenpo
do
is.
what I do and what I was taught. Yeah.
I was gonna ask you, how did you start? How was your first involvement within martial arts? What happened?
Well, that story's been told many thousands of times in different magazines and articles and whatever interviews, but like all kids, you know, I was interested in the martial arts, especially back in the old days, we call it. And I just was, I knew of a karate school in Fresno, and I said, you know, someday I might want to do that. So I had a friend in college and high school that I ran around with. His name was Cletus Hammock, and he's the one that got me started in it. But anyway, he started taking lessons, and I was a musician at the time, you know, guitar player, and I said, you know, I thought like a lot of people, you got to mess up your hands and make useless meat hooks out of them from breaking bricks and boards and all that stuff, and you can't do anything with them. So he told me, we were driving, we passed the school one day, and he said, I think I'm going to try karate. I said, go ahead, I'm not going to mess up my hands or whatever. So I didn't see him for a long time. And then he came into a dance we were playing, and I saw him. Oh, Cletus, where you been? You know, he told me this and this, and I've been taking karate. And I said, oh yeah? He said, yeah, I got to go down to the school to see if I passed one of my belt tests. I can't remember what it was, color belt, early color belt, you know, orange, purple, blue, whatever, I don't remember. Did you want to go with me? And I said, yeah, I'll go. So we went driving, and we passed that school. And I didn't know it at the time because you didn't know one system from another, but it was a Shotokan school. And I said, I thought we were going there. He said, no, we're going to a different school. I said, I didn't know there was another school. So we went to a Kenpo school, and it was Steve Labounty and Tom Kelly's school. So we went in, and they put your name on the blackboard, you know, when you took your test to see if you passed or not. They didn't tell you right away. They made you wait and make you sweat. But anyway, found out he passed the test, and then I saw some other musician friends of mine in there from other bands that I knew in the area, and I said, hey, what are you guys doing? You know, we're training. No. I said, you're going to mess up your hands? They said, no. I said, oh, okay. I thought you did, you know. So anyway, they talked me into signing up, and you know, I signed up and been at it ever since. And it's funny, I tell people, the guy that got me started, Cletus, quit at Brown. Okay. So he got to Brown, he said that's good enough, that's all he wanted to learn is how to defend himself a little bit or whatever. And so he quit at Brown, and I continued on. So that's how I got involved in it. And just luckily, people say, how did you wind up in Kenpo? I said, luck. I didn't know Kenpo from Shinola, you know what I mean? You don't know when there's, you know, Chinese, Japanese, Okinawan, Korean, all different and whatever. So I just wound up in Kenpo school by luck because Cletus wound up there. Or else I'd have been in that Shotokan school, you know. Yeah.
That's an interesting story. Actually, that story happens a lot in martial arts. It's a story that a lot of individuals bring their friends, and their friends are the ones that stay, and they continue going on with life.
And they go to the first school they know of, or the only school they know of that's closest to the house, or whatever, you know. Yeah.
So when you were involved with Labounty and Kelly, how did you end up with Mr. Parker? How did you meet Mr. Parker?
Well, we had the school in Fresno, and I don't know why, but Tom hooked up with a couple of people, Tom Kelly. He's dead now, rest his soul, but he wound up with a couple of business guys who had worked with the Tracys at one time and showed them the Arthur Murray dance school sales procedures, whatever, is what everybody started using. So Tom hooked up with them, and they researched the areas and stuff, and they were going to open a school in El Paso, Texas. And I don't know why Tom wanted to do it, left, whatever, but he went down there with them to open a school. And I stayed in Fresno with Labounty and the other guys at the school. And then Tom came back on a Christmas one year. I can't remember what year, 60, 68, 69, somewhere in there. And talked about how good the school was going, and he needed help down there. And I was in a band at the time, and our band was in the process of possibly breaking up. We had just lost our bass player, was killed in an accident. He had to work in a new guy all the time and do all the choreography routines. It was just a lot of work. And some of the guys were getting tired of it, and I sort of was too. And so Tom talked me into going to El Paso with him to work with him. So I said, okay, I'll do that. So I left Fresno and went to El Paso with Tom. And then shortly after that, I didn't know it, but then Steve had a little disagreement or whatever with his partner in the school there. So he left and he went to Pasadena, and the old man put him in a school in Woodland Hills. So he was actually got there a month or two before we did. But that's how I wound up with Tom in El Paso. And then things didn't go right there, and agreement-wise with what Tom had with the other partners. So Tom got mad and left and went to Pasadena and left me in Texas because I didn't have anything else to do. So he went to Pasadena, left me in the school. I had every student in the school, teaching from morning till night, all by myself. I didn't have any help and whatever. And there's a lot to the story, but to make a long story short, I found out that they weren't going to be a recognized school for what they did to Tom and everything. And the old man, Mr. Parker, says, come to Pasadena if you want to come here. I got a place for you too. So I left the next day and wound up in Pasadena, and then that's where I stayed ever since, until that went bye-bye, But that's how I wound up with Parker.
Yeah. When you were with Mr. Parker, how did he teach? How did he teach you? You were on more of a personal basis with him, and in comparison to others. How was he as an instructor? What was your feel? How did you understand what he was trying to attain?
He was a very meticulous instructor. I used to watch the old man get mad, when he was teaching something and people couldn't get it. He'd pull his hair and he'd pound the desk. He'd go stomping off in the office and sit down and beat on his desk, and he'd cool off. They'd come, all right, let's do it again. He really, and I sort of do the same thing. And I tell people, why I yell at you, why I yell at you, because I want you to learn this. If I didn't care, I see people, I've been to schools, backyard schools, I call them, or garage schools, where the teacher is teaching with a cigarette in one hand and a beer can in the other. And he's talking to his buddy, drinking and smoking. And, oh, wait a minute. Now, guys, do this, okay? And then he's back to talking to his buddy, And you got no interest, really, in teaching and what, and that's the difference, I really learned for what it's for. It's a self-defense, for save your butt in the street when you need it. If you don't fight hard, you won't train that way. If you don't train hard, you won't fight that way either. Realistically, is the saying. I said in the class last night. So you got to take it for what it is. What it's for. And you got to have that mean streak and be able to tap it to to come out on top. You got to. I tell people, what is the Shaolin system based on? The 5 animals. What animals? The tiger, the dragon. Vicious, rip them up, chew them up, spit them out animals. If you can't, do that, you're not going to be able to do it. It's not the butterfly and the titmouse and the hummingbird. No, they're vicious, cruel animals, and that's what it takes, to come out on top. Yeah.
You're absolutely correct. During your travel within the Kenpo, this life that actually chose you, what have you seen it modify into? What are the changes now? And we were talking about this yesterday, in the martial arts in general, comparison to 20 years ago, compared to 30 years ago, to 40 years ago.
Well, in the old days, we say, there were no kids and very few women. We didn't take kids. Just like you have to be 16 to wear a junior black belt, and it wasn't a full black belt until you were 18. But there were, again, no kids, because it's not really made for kids. So I'd say babysitting is what was the downfall of the martial arts. I have actually seen schools changed their signs to Kenpo daycare centers. Actually says that, Kenpo daycare, unbelievable. And you walk in and you see these people doing things, and there's not one move or anything that martial arts related at all. They're just playing games and whatever. And I've said it many times over the years that you don't need qualified teachers to babysit. Most of the schools I go into, they have a kid out there on the floor that's a year or two older than the kid they're babysitting, and they're just keeping them in line, playing games. And I don't know how some of these parents can walk into a school and watch their kid do that. If I was a father of a kid and I took him to a karate school to learn how to defend himself, and I saw what they're doing, and I say, hey, when are you going to teach my kid how to fight? When are you going to teach him how to defend himself, not just play games and whatever,
You're absolutely correct, and I agree 100% with your feelings. I've seen way too many parents that come into the school and bring their child in here, and they say, well, this is too rough, so they take them down the street. And then years later, they're wearing a higher rank, black belt usually, and they get their butt whipped. Now they're in junior high or in high school. Now they got their butt whipped, and they come back and they say, can you teach them for the street? And I go, you should have been here from the beginning.
Yeah.
I think what's changed in the last 25, 30 years is that 30, 40, 50 years ago, it was either your older brother or your uncle or your father that took you to the guy that knew how to fight in town for you to learn how to develop yourself, whether in boxing or karate or judo or whatnot.
Yeah.
They took you to the person that knew how to fight.
Yeah.
And now you have a lot of moms and the great moms out there that take their kid to the closest thing to their nail salon, or where they get their hair done, or where they go grocery shopping, and they have no idea what is a martial art, what is a fighting
Well, that's
system.
the problem. It's education.
And they just take them in there, and you have a kid that's 19 years old saying he's a grandmaster.
Yeah.
And
they just know the word.
And that's
karate.
it.
Oh,
Karate.
that's deadly fighting. They don't know one system from another, and what this system does to teach you how to fight to that system. They just know the word. And it's not like the old days. I tell people in the old days we had a first aid kit, smelling salts, ethyl chloride spray for sprains and bruises and whatever. And you used it every night in the classes. And now it's just like tournaments. I tell people in the old days in the internationals, you say, you want a job? Okay, you're a blood mopper. What? Yeah, you take these rolls of paper towels and go around the rings and mop up the blood. It's going to be there. Now any sign of blood is a disqualification. In the old days it was perfectly fine and legal and expected. I have pictures of me in the old days in the internationals and other tournaments, sitting in a white gi down on my knees and waiting to go into sudden death overtime, blood running down my face, my nose, and on my gi, and I'm smiling, just having a good time. And some of the old, well-known, karate guys and judges and stuff there, just normal, not anymore.
No, you're absolutely correct. And we were talking about this yesterday too, is conditioning the body. A lot of people forget to condition their body. They train all these techniques, but then they forget to condition their hands. They forget to condition, and they forget the fact that when you punch somebody in the street, the chances are you can break your hand.
Well, that's happened. That's happened to a lot of people. I say it this way. I said, why does a boxer hire a trainer and a sparring partner? Hey, my gut's getting a little soft. Give me work me over. Come on. You got to take it. You dish it out. You don't just take it. I say in every Bruce Lee movie, Bruce is a bloody mess in the end of the movie. He did that on purpose to show you don't just dish it out. You got to take it too. And if you can't take it, you're not going to be dishing much out. See? So he's still a bloody mess, but he wound up winning. See? And that's the reason for that. Look, you're going to get hit. You're going to get bloody. Your blood. Expect it. Yeah, it's just the way it is. Yeah.
That's just the way it is. Yeah. You mentioned Bruce Lee. You met him, right?
Oh, many times. Yeah.
What did you see from him? How was he? How was he as a person? How was he as a martial artist? when you were around him? How did you meet him?
Well, Bruce was, you know, a lot of people say, you know, the most well-rounded, but I wouldn't say well-rounded, but he was a master of his body. There's a saying about Bruce, you know, that anything Bruce could see, he could do. Like, you see something, do that again? Okay. And he could do it as good as you the first time and better the second, it's the same, you know, because it's like a gymnast or a dancer. You know, they just work on their body control and knowing how to move. There's a thing about that, I don't want to get sidetracked, but there's a clip on the internet I saw of the old man, Mr. Parker, talking about all these forms and techniques that we learn, what they're for. They don't have to be done that way. They're just teaching you how to move. You're learning how to move in all these possible ways you can do that. See? So when you master your body like that, anything you can see, you can do. I remember I had a girlfriend, a Japanese girlfriend from Osaka, and she taught jazzercise dancing and fitness stuff at House Shape Gym in Osaka. And we got hooked up, and she used to go around with me to the seminars. And she'd only been to a few seminars. You know, I don't remember how many, but probably more than I realized. But one day I'm doing a seminar, and we're working on some forms, you know, lower forms. And I look over in the corner, and she is helping people with the form. She's doing the form because she saw me do it enough times to be able to do it, and very good. You know, mechanically correct, timing, everything, you know, because she's a dancer. I remember we were late a lot of times to go to a dance class that she was doing. She'd just sit down and watch the routine and watch them go through it a couple times. Just jump right out on the floor and do it with them, just like she was there from the beginning. You know, because it's just, you know what, you understand what you're seeing and what you're looking at, and you know how to move, see? And that's what you're learning. You just learn how to control your body. You know, it's funny how most people don't do things as a natural motion. But I tell people, fighting is work, and the stances are the same. Like everybody wants to go sideways or go side horse, you know, says, you don't do anything sideways, you face your work. As if I gave you a saw and a board and a sawhorse to saw me off a piece of this, you wouldn't stand sideways either way. You'd face that board and get your body in a neutral bow, the best neutral bow you ever been in, for the same reason, to get your body working behind that saw. Then I said, now come out and help me push my car. It won't start, so you're going to get the best forward bow you ever been in. Now we're going to play tug of war, drag this thing down the street or whatever. You're going to get in the best reverse bow you ever been in your life for the same reason. Fighting is work, and the stances are the same. We don't have to ever teach you how to get in those stances. A neutral bow, a forward bow, and a reverse bow are all natural, normal work stances, and your brain just knows what to do and where to put your body in. And people get in the way, they get the brain get in the way of that somehow. You know, it's natural, you know. It's just natural to face your work. That's why we say that. Face your work. Face your work, you know.
You're correct in everything.
Yeah.
And you see that, and you see good basic stance and everything, whether, you know, and I used it in the kitchen a lot. You have to have a natural stance for you to be able to be working and standing up and being in the kitchen 12 hours, you know, cooking, so on and so forth. If you don't have it, you're going to tire out, you're going to poop out, and that's going to end the story.
Yeah, you can't work efficiently.
Exactly.
That's rule number one: establish a base. You know, and Kenpo, the base is the neutral bow.
No, you're right. You're right. Out of Mr. Parker, you had other individuals that came out and developed their own systems, right? You had like Tino Tilagosa. What? He was also
Who?
Tino.
Well, he had his own system before he trained with Parker. He worked out in Pasadena with Parker, but he had his own system that he put Lima Lama together, which was a Polynesian or a Samoan. I think he was Samoan. I'm not sure. I don't remember. I think it was Samoan, but yeah, he was. You know, that before he got into Kenpo.
Into Kenpo.
Yeah.
So you had a lot of people coming into Kenpo that were from other arts, correct?
Well, yeah, I don't know if you say came into Kenpo. Some did, but some they were just friends. You know, like Tino and Mr. Parker were old friends. You know. And a lot of the guys from Hawaii, you know, were old friends, like, you know, Toro Tanaka, you know, and a lot of the guys from over there. They grew up together, they went to school together, you know, whatever, and just from being lifelong friends, yeah.
When you saw the difference in the change of the system from the 60s to the 70s to the 80s. What was changing? Why was it changing? Was it changing because society was changing, or was it changing because of?
I don't think society changed. Again, it goes back to the babysitting. And just like the cigarette companies, they found out and they proved that they were marketing kids. Yeah, they were marketing kids. See? And same thing, you get what you go after. If you market kids, you're going to get kids. If you don't market kids, you don't get kids. Like I said, up until, I can't remember when it happened, but I remember like yesterday, the old man walking in and telling me, how we're going to start taking kids. I said, oh man, how old? He said, 10, minimum of 10, based on a trial period. If you give them a trial, if you think you can teach them, we'll teach them. If not, you tell them to come back when they're older. They're taking 4-year-olds and 3-year-olds now, You buy a box of Huggies and a bunch of 000 G-tops, and you're in business, And you go around afterwards mopping the pee off the floor and whatever else that the kids do, I'd say, but that is nothing but babysitting. There's an old saying people have been saying for years that a black belt doesn't mean anything anymore. It doesn't have the clout that it used to have. I said, well, put the blame where that counts. If you're one of the ones promoting these babies and giving them the black belts and stuff to wear, then you're the one responsible for that. If you said, no, you're not going to wear that until you can back it up and, really are one, then that's the difference. And that's the thing. So I say put the blame where it counts,
No,
If you got a school full of those little rugrats running around wearing black belts, you're responsible.
You're the problem.
Yes.
I've had people come in and they're working out, and they'll pull them out and they'll say, well, I'm going to go down the street because my little son's cousin is now a black belt and he wants to become a black belt. Well, sayonara, good for you.
That's because it's just what the kid knows. He doesn't really know what it is. So why is I've had that asked by people. Daddy is studying in the same school the junior is, and junior, his kid is wearing a black belt and he's like an orange belt. Okay? And say, why? Why you got to give the kid a black belt and the daddy's a real orange belt? See? To keep him happy, because he doesn't know. He doesn't have the brains and the understanding to know what it's all about. And that's what we're talking about. It's not for kids. You got to keep them happy.
Sure.
Yeah.
When you take that into consideration and you take it into the combative sports, under the state of Texas, I'm talking, so I do not know any of the other state commissions, but under boxing here, you have to be 8 years old to do boxing.
How old?
8.
8?
8. And you compete after 6 months. You can compete. Granted, boxing, you have the helmet and you have everything, the protection still in there, but they're still hitting each other. It's amateur boxing under USA Boxing. And you have the golden gloves. Depends on which golden gloves in which part of the state. You can go at 12 years of age. Okay, before that, it's the silver gloves. Okay, but they're punching and kicking. Now,
really hitting.
They're hitting each other. So when you go to a boxing gym, most boxing gyms are inner city gyms. They're inside the PAL system, so the police athletic leagues. And if you really look at it, in comparison to a karate school, where you have in Taekwondo schools, the corner chop and block schools, you have 30, 40 kids in a classroom. Here you might have 5.
Yeah.
Okay, but I guarantee you those 5 know how to fight in comparison to those 30 or 40. And that's
I say that all the time. I wonder how many people, or think about how many people are in a karate school beating up the air compared to how many people are in a boxing gym
school.
Really punching people and getting punched back.
Yep.
That's like how many people are fighting in the cage compared to how many are in karate schools beating up the air. See,
and that's something that we talked about earlier today. Is what makes Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu so popular. You don't get hit.
Yeah, no
you're
striking.
Not kicking. You're not no striking.
Yeah.
And people frown on savate because you wear shoes. There's no padding in the shin guards. There's nothing like that, and you're kicking each other, and you're not trying to damage each other. But the shoe hurts. Every so often you lift up your shirt, and you have you look like a leopard with all the.
Well, that's the old school colors. Black and blue is the school colors. Color of bruises. Yeah.
So people don't like that. So you're going to start seeing a diminishing in certain areas.
Yeah, it's an old saying. If you're not black and blue, you're not training. Yeah. You're going to get hit, and it's going to be hit hard. You know, so I tell people, blocking hurts. Blocking hurts. When that punch coming in fast or that kick and you block it, it's going to hurt. You know, so you just get used to it. You know, get used to it. I tell you, a shot that you take now that'll put you down as a beginner. Later on, you just shake it off again. Now that was a good shot, guy. You know, you get tough. You get tough. Yeah.
And you know, I've seen many colleagues, I would say, that have martial arts schools, and they cater to kids, and they're doing great, and awesome, more power to them. But they're actually doing a damage too as well. I couldn't sleep at night for being able to do that. And I couldn't sleep at night because I want my kids to learn how to fight.
I have lots of sayings like that. I tell them, I couldn't sleep at night if I didn't tell you this. I got to tell you this and make you think about what you're doing, you know. 'Cause, you know, then I can sleep. I can look myself in the mirror in the morning and say, well, what am I, you know, doing? Shysting these people, these kids, taking their money and not teaching them a thing, you know. I said, no. I got to tell them what it's for and what they need to do, and then I can sleep, you know.
You know, a long time ago I was told, what God giveth, God takes it away. So I'm not going to go out there and squander something around just for one day not be here again, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I have too much respect for my Sifu, and you know him very well, Keith C. How he instilled that to me was more like, you know what, I'm teaching you this so that one day that you have to use it, you're able to use it.
Yeah.
And he was one of the ones that would say cross-train. You know? I remember he said, go learn Shorinji Kenpo. There was a Shorinji Kenpo school in Fort Worth.
Mm-hmm.
So he went over there with me, and I got enrolled, and for 6 months, the Japanese individual was teaching Shorinji Kenpo over there. He goes, go learn it, because that's also part of Kenpo. You know, all the grabs and everything else, but you remember him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was going to say something about that. And, you know, like every kid in school, I say this, learns what makes an airplane fly.
Sure.
You know, and I remember I was at the Smithsonian one time in the Aerospace Museum, and they had this little box in there with a wing in it and smoky air blowing over it. You lifted the wing up into this air, and then you could see the smoke make the pattern and feel the wing lift. And it said on there, it says, for every square inch of wing surface that you get 1 pound of lift. So I said, I got to check on that. So getting on the plane going home, it was a light load, so I stuck my head in the cockpit and I said, Captain, can I ask you a question? He said, yeah. He says, I heard that for every square inch of wing surface, you get 1 pound of lift. Is that true? And he says, where'd you hear that? I says, in the Smithsonian. He says, I don't know, I never heard that. And he's flying the plane full of people. See, he doesn't know what makes that happen, but he does it because he can do the job. So the same thing, every kid learns what makes an airplane fly, but if you can't fly an airplane, what good does it do you? You know, you learn how to read the book, and I know how to do this technique and that technique, yeah, but if you can't effectively do it, what good is it? See? You got to be able to do it, like Bruce Lee saying, knowing how is not enough. You must apply.
That's actually right.
Must apply.
I know a lot of individuals in all different martial arts, you know, and I'll say, and they're great. They can hit the bag, make it sound left and right. They can do all the forms. They go out to the tournaments, and then they'll come back and tell you, the only thing I'm missing is because I don't know how to fight. Where have you been in the last 10 years of your life? You know, if you don't know how to fight, take off that rank.
Yeah, well, some people know that. Some people know it. I was in my school in New Orleans one time, and a guy walked in, mid-20s, whatever, and he says, I want to ask about lessons. So I gave him the spiel and everything, and I said, you have any martial art training experience? He said, yeah. He says, I'm a 3rd degree black belt in Taekwondo, and I'd like to know how long it would take me to learn to defend myself. I almost busted up laughing.
Yeah.
When he says, yeah, I'm a 3rd black in Taekwondo, and I would like to know how long it's going to take me to learn how to defend myself. He knew he didn't know anything, you know. He knew. Amazing, you know. They go that far and know they don't know anything, you know.
No, and it happens. It happens more every day.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it just depends, you know, where it separates us. And I'm glad I've been influenced by you and others, Frank and Keith.
Yeah.
And to the point that has kind of kept me going in the right road. You know?
Well, see, Frank's gone, Keith's gone, you know, and not long off I'm going to be gone. You know, I'm 72 this year, you know, and the old man died at 59, and we called him the old man, you know, and I've outlived him this long already, and I'm going to drop dead on the mat like everybody else did. But, you know, I just keep plugging away and doing what I do and spreading the gospel, trying to make people understand what it is. And but it's a tough battle because there's more people out there, you know, not doing what they should be doing compared to the ones that are doing what they're doing. The old man's been gone. He died in 90. How many years ago is that now? 28,
20,
30
20,
years,
20,
whatever.
Probably going to be 30 years next year. 89, right?
Died in
89?
99 or 80,
89?
89, I don't know, 90 I think. Anyway, a long time.
It's going to be 30 years.
And there's a lot of people out there teaching, and groups of people running around teaching. And ask any of them who their teacher is. Oh, I don't have one. That's the problem. That's the problem, because they never learned what they should have learned in the first place. They're breaking every rule in the book, not doing things, you know. Like one of the things that I hate to see is, you know, the old man used to say, Kenpo works because we make a man hold where it hurts. You punch somebody in the nose, he will hold his nose so fast, you know, his hands are going. But now when you get punched somebody in the head, the hands cannot come up and block you. I have to leave that open so you can hit me 15 more times in the head, and that won't happen. Just slap somebody in the nose and watch how fast their hands come up, or hit them anywhere. That's just, I said, what's a stuntman's job in a movie? To make it look real. He reacts realistically to the shot he received. That's what makes it, you know, come off. If you didn't do that, Bruce Lee wouldn't be Bruce Lee, you know, Jackie Chan wouldn't be Jackie Chan. They'd get laughed at. Even though they're not laughing at Bruce or Jackie, they're laughing because of what he did, and the guy didn't affect the guy to make it so, you know, they know he didn't hit him. But the stuntman's job is to make it look real, you know, and react accordingly, and that's, you know, what how Kenpo is based on.
Yep.
Make a man hold where it hurts, bend, twist, and turn, not the hard side mentality. I've heard people say, you come in and throw a punch like a hard side and you don't move, you become a stone statue. That's a saying I put together many, many years ago. SSS, I call it, stone statue syndrome. You come in and punch, you become a stone statue, and no matter how you're hit or where you're hit, you don't move. That's not realistic. You don't ever see that in a movie. You'll never see it in a movie. You got to show the realistic reaction and make it look real. And that's what Kenpo is based on, making that man hold where it hurts, you know, and creating your openings in the targets, you know.
No, you're absolutely correct.
Mm-hmm.
To learn off the reaction.
Yeah.
To learn off the reaction. Let's touch who has, besides you and Mr. Parker, who else have you seen that was around you, that grew up within Kenpo, that spread Kenpo?
Spread Kenpo?
Spread Kenpo, and that tried to live that. And there's
Well,
many.
There's not many. Compared to how many people trained in Kenpo, went up into black belts or higher in Kenpo, there is very few, a handful of people going around the world or wherever teaching it. Some better than others, some not so good, some whatever, but that's again for you to say. But the numbers are amazing if you think about how many people are out there actually doing it compared to how many students there are. There's not that many.
Right.
Not that many. Yeah.
Very few that are actually out there pushing it
Right.
forward.
Yes.
Literally pushing it forward.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like how many Bruce Lees are there? How many Jackie Chans are there? You know, how many Chuck Norrises are there? You know, and they're the ones that did it because they had the desire and the want, and they lived it, breathed it, slept it, eat it, you know, everything else, and that's what it takes. You know, you got to have that desire. Like I say, one of my other sayings, only the people that really want it will be the ones that get it, and they're the ones that'll pick up the ball and run with it, or the people that, you know, people want to ask. You know, I never had any desire or even any plan to be a karate instructor, and a lot of my other students didn't either. They just got asked to be. When can you come? I want you to come teach me. What for? What me for? Well, I like what you do. You know, well, okay, you know, whatever. You know, when I tried to quit before, when the old man went bankrupt and I moved to Alaska with Gail Hibben, you know, phones ringing off the hook. When can you come down and teach me? When can you come down and do a seminar and this and that? You know, they wouldn't let me quit, so I had to get back into it. You know, but if you got something to offer, they like it and they want it. If you don't have nothing to offer, you'll never get a call. Sure. You'll never get a call. You know, and that's what people got to think about. And very few people call, and then some people don't call anyway. Like You know, I remember the first time I went to, I just said this not too long ago. The first time I went to Chile, I was in a tour in South America, and it was at the time around 2000, somewhere in there. And I went back with some other people, and some people came in. Oh, we're glad you're back. He said, we were at your first seminar here. Oh yeah, when was that? He said, I think it was 11 years ago at the time. I said, oh, really? How come? What do you mean? How come I haven't been here 11 years? Well, I don't know. I said, I know. Nobody picked up the phone and called. I'll go anywhere, teach anywhere, as long as it fits the schedule, but take somebody calling to do it. I said, so you think these guys that picked up the phone and called for me being here? Not me. I didn't do it. They did it. So everywhere I go is based on a phone call. You know, they'll call you if they want you. No, that's it. There's other people go around that try to, you know, spend their own money drumming up business to travel around, and guys that shouldn't be doing it, but they are, and if they know one or two things more than the people they're talking to, that hook up with them, and you know, here's my new teacher because he knows more than I do, and shouldn't be the case, you know. But these people don't do it. Like the three kinds of people Mr. Parker talked about, you know, those who let things happen, who make things happen, or ask what happened. You know?
Yeah.
You go make it happen, or let it happen, or sit around and say what happened. You know, yeah.
You're absolutely correct. And if they'll call if they're interested in what you have, and if you have something to offer, they're going to call you. And that's basically the way it is.
Yeah.
And in today's world, the internet has opened up, social media has opened up. So there used to be a protocol. You know, you couldn't talk. You had an instructor, so you couldn't talk to the higher ups if you were underneath an instructor. And in today's world with social media, you have students talking as equals to everybody else, and we all equal in gender, and we're all equal in.
A lot of that was ego-driven and stuff, where you know you can't talk to this guy, you got to go through me.
Right,
you know? And the old man used to get mad when people would say that. You know, people would tell you can't talk to Mr. Parker, you got to go through me. And the old man said, no, you come to me, you call me, you want to talk to me, you call me. Yeah, you do it. That's the thing. But I use the internet more for showing people what not to do than what to do. There's more very bad on there than there is good, you know, and you can't make a judgment. You look at somebody doing something and you say, oh wow, that's great, and somebody else looks at it, oh, that is terrible. Well, how can you make that judgment? You have to have knowledge. When you have enough knowledge to make the judgment, then you can do that. But without that, you know, it's useless. You know, it's useless. I tell people all the time, I said, we could be sitting in the stands at a tournament. We're sitting side by side, watching this guy down on the floor do his thing. And you're going, isn't he wonderful? And I'm thinking, what a pile of crap, you know. You know, I base it on what I know, and you base it on what you know. I said, well, later on, if you really keep at it and learn, you might change your mind, you know. But otherwise,
you're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
You're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
And you know, and tournaments have expanded the martial arts. And tournaments, at the same time as they've expanded it, they've brought down the quality down. Instead of, I guess, their perceived assumption of what something should be is here instead of the reality, which is down here. So people are flocking into this assumption that exists, that it's a narrative that that was just built on somebody's theory that shouldn't be there. You know?
Yeah, that reminds me of another story. Mike Cappy, one of the old students in Philadelphia, decided to put on a tournament one time. So we had in the tournament, in the forms division, you had weapons, but you had to use basically a real weapon. You know, you see a lot of these kids out there now doing what I call their chrome shower rod staff set. You know, got this little hollow, light aluminum, glittery staff that they can spin like an airplane propeller, but if they hit anybody, it'd go flying out of their hand the way they're holding it in the first place, or wouldn't hurt anybody. So the rule was you had to use a real oak wooden staff with, you know, realistic weight and all that stuff. So I was head of the judging, and the kid comes in the ring with one of those chrome shower rods. And I said, you can't use that. He said, why? I said, you know it's hollow and you got to use a real one. He says, yeah. I said, go find a real one, come back. So I went and found a real one, oak staff, came back, started right off the bat and dropped it, lost it. And I heard him when they reached down to pick it up, says, man, he says, I can't do this with a real one. I said, yeah, I heard that, and that's why. You know, this is not a movie, you know, this is, you know, you got to use a real weapon, and so you couldn't do it with a real weapon, basically, you know, yeah.
No, you know, I see that in we started under USA Savate and under the Escrimadores of Stockton. We put together a kind of a tournament rule committee under the auspices of USA Savate. It's known as the Gentlemen's Stick Fighting Coalition. And we use gentlemen as the term, you know. Now we have ladies that do it as well. And they already told us, what are we going to put ladies involved in? And I go, when we get enough ladies, then we'll change the name. We'll amend it. Well, anyway, to make a long story short, we came out with a rule. You know, in Savate we have Lacan, and we do Eskrima, the Filipino martial arts, as you well know, as you as well. And we got to everybody goes, what are the rules that's out there? There's the rules of WECAF, then the rules of the Bahalna group, then there's the other groups that are out there. Then there's a rule of Lacan of Savate. There's boxing and this. And I said, what are the mistakes, or what is what you all don't like? We came up with a bunch of stuff, and he goes, well, in some tournaments, all of a sudden a master comes in there and he goes, I'm a master, I'm going to judge. Now that's easy. We'll take it just like USA Boxing and USA Savate do. You have to take an officials clinic. If you don't have the officials clinic, you can't officiate the tourney, you know? So you have to have every 2 years you have to take a clinic. So we started getting and it took us about 2.5 years to agree on everything. We did the first tournament. We're in the third year. Everybody in Texas will have the third annual stick fighting championship. Everybody comes in there and says, "Oh, we'll go if it's under these rules. We'll go if these under these rules." We fought in the tournament where it's only ours and one in San Antonio, and that's alive and kicking. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And where else is there? So where's the where else? Or they'll come out and they say, "No, I only teach to kill." And when was the last time you killed something besides a beer? You know what I'm saying? So I said, please, let's get back down to reality. Quit watching the video games. Quit playing. We're playing Sega and PlayStation or whatever you do in your spare time, and get back down to what actually works. Is a tournament based on a point system? Is it a point system of reality? Or is it just going to be a person going out there? So it has to be an arm strike. It can't be a flip-flop. It has to be done correctly for the judges to see, for the ref to see, and for everybody else to understand what's going on. Because we just go out there and just start wailing away each other.
Well, that's the same in the old tournaments of what a point was. You know, a point was a shot that no question would end the fight. The guy would be down and he couldn't get up to continue. That got you a point.
Yeah.
Now the flying hair flick gets you a point. You know, you just off balance, doesn't it? Flick the hair and I point. You know.
Yeah, you know, and so here it's we have it coming up, and we have some ladies that are coming in there, and they say, "Oh, there are other ladies. There's some that are joining. Others say that they're coming, but you girls are the pioneers to this. Mm-hmm. We all commend you for this. Step up to the game. That's just the way it is. Somebody has to take a step forward to get something going." And I know that you train in the Filipino martial arts. How did you get involved in that?
Well, like I said, I got exposed to that before I was exposed to Kenpo, being Filipino. And I used to travel around with my dad to the Filipino labor camps. And in most of the Filipino systems, Daddy doesn't teach the kids because they know Junior won't listen to Daddy. So they always take you to Uncle this or Uncle that to, get you started and whatever. So I did that when I would travel around with my dad to the Filipino labor camps, and they'd say, this is your uncle this, everybody's uncle in, like family thing, like Hawaii, the same thing, Ohana, whatever. But, you get stuck with somebody, so they start teaching you things, and that's how I got exposed to it. but I never learned that much. Just thought, no, that's neat, that's okay, that's good. And then when I got into Kenpo in Pasadena, I met Dan Inosanto, and Dan, he's Filipino, everyone knows that, but Mr. Parker says, how come I want you to meet one of your countrymen? So he introduced me to Dan, and Dan says, oh, you're Filipino? I said, yeah, half. And he says, you know any Eskrima? I said, no, I played with it, but I don't really. And he says, man, that's your heritage, that's your blood, you should know that. I said, yeah, maybe you're right. So he told me his book to read and different things. He told me where school was. Well, I started doing that and going down to Dan's and stuff, and then doing all the seminars I could and training with different people. But just through the years, exposed to a lot of different systems. My brother, got into it when I was in L.A. My brother got transferred to Fresno, and that's where he hooked up with Romero Estelilla and studied his system. But everybody trained in many different, probably more Filipino systems than there are karate systems.
Sure.
But they all do the same thing. One specializes in this a little more than that one, and everybody mix matches stuff. I remember my brother, he did a seminar at one of the camps in California, and there was a guy there from Australia from another system, and he wanted to take my brother's seminars to see what it was all about. So he liked one of the things that my brother did, and he said, hey, I like that, can I use that? And he said, sure, that's what it's for. So the next seminar there at the camp that he did, he was teaching what he got from my brother the class before. Everybody does that, beg, borrow, and steal from each other. So there's no pure systems anymore. Everybody does the same thing, and does that mix match. Like Dan, the Inosanto system. Dan told me that what he teaches is not his, it's a combination of 5 systems that he liked. He took different things out of 5 systems and put together. And probably more now, I don't know, that's been a long time ago, but that's what he does, So I do the same thing. I might teach a technique from one system, then teach a counter for that from another system. If I go to a third counter, now here's another counter from another system that would counter that. See, so, but it all fits together, Yeah.
Is that the reason why on your patch you have the Filipinos weapons?
I really, to really think about it, I really don't know why I did that. The symbol is the shape of the Parker patch for the Kenpo, and the K is in there for Kali and Kenpo, but then it has the Filipino weapons inside, and that's because the interest in the weapons. But I tell people, people think that when they saw that, when I first did it many years ago, that I changed everything. I says, no. I teach the Kenpo the way we wrote it out in the book in big red, exactly why and how come. And I said, the Filipino arts are there too. You can mix, match, and mix it up because it fits together. Style of motion's the same. It's there to learn if you want it. But if you don't want it, you don't have to learn it. So over the years, and talking to different people, and a lot of my students have cross-trained in the Filipino arts. So yeah, we need a better weapon system, than what we have. So we've been just lately, the last couple of years, been putting together a little short weapon system based on the Filipino system, but not complete, not the 12 on 12 on 12, the 12 angles, 12 count, 12 strikes, all this, just on Cinco Terro or the 5 angles. So that's just to get people's feet wet, show them what there is to learn, and if they do want to continue it, they can go through school and take it farther. But it's just like an introductory, get your feet wet type thing to see what it's all about.
Sure.
And a lot of people like it. I just did it in, where was it? Somewhere lately. I did it in Australia, and I did it, not Australia, New Zealand, and I did it somewhere back east somewhere lately. I can't remember what. But everybody, California too, but everybody likes it. Yeah.
Sure. I got, we were, first time I saw a Filipino system, my dad and my uncle were teaching a group of guys from San Antonio, the Sabat and Cipoto, back in 88, 89. And I met a young man by the name of Ricky Rivera, who was Leo Gaca's nephew. And he was the first one we started playing with sticks, and I said, oh, that's great, and of course, when we were friends with Salim and then we used to go travel back and forth, they used to come down here and go back over there. I remember I met Mr. Inosanto because they used to teach out of the Inosanto, and to me that was lovely. I think Mr. Inosanto's an asset. He's like a library to the martial arts, and he has brought martial arts that are non-existent as per se. People don't know them up to the limelight, and you know that's a great asset to the martial art world, is Mr. Inosanto.
Yeah.
And as the time moved on, and I had my schools back in as you know, in Dallas with Keith and everybody, we had a lot of students that used to come in, and some did Paquita Tercia, and some did Cali, and some did some other systems, you know, and they would always train somebody. So that's how I got exposed to that. But my real understanding, or real acceptance of the opening of the book, was when I did a seminar for the Penjak Silat International back in Reno, and two gentlemen came in. They were both students and masters under Angel Cabales, which is the father of Eskrima here in the States.
Silat?
No. And they were there. And they were there as guest instructors. And one of them was Carlito Bonjok, and the other one was Ron Saturno from Angel Cabales Cerrada system in Stockton. And I saw Carlito move, and I said to myself, this is a man that I helped him. You know, I put 3 chairs together for him to sit down, and he was sitting down on there. And people need to understand that Carlito is in a wheelchair, and he's missing one leg. And he has a prosthesis, and he's sitting down there, and he told everybody there that was in that Silat camp, how many of you here do Eskrima, Arnis, Kali? Okay, a couple of you guys come up, and he tells them, okay, attack me, and he went through him like a hot knife through butter, you know? Not beating him up, but just moving, and just angling, and so on and so forth. And I paid attention to all that, and I said, you know what, I've seen a lot of people do the Filipino martial arts, but he knows his foundation. And for him to be in that position to be able to do, I want to learn from him. Where was the source that he came from? Then you started understanding where it was. And I saw Ron's side of things. Then I was embraced by the guys in Stockton, you know, for what the Dance Through Savate we took over there. And I've learned from all of them. And they're all great people, great individuals that teach out of the heart, that teach openly. You know, there's no prejudice. It's just you want to learn, come over here to the park. We're right here. Let's just train. And it's interesting to see, and what gets me is you see folks out there that, how can I say, that probably learned from a seminar of a guy that learned from a guy that probably went to a seminar from one of these individuals. You know what I'm saying? Teaching and claiming higher status and knowledge from them, and you're like, buddy, there's no way, you know? I mean, you know, go back to play a video game, because there's no way you're near them. There's no way, you know? And take that title off. I mean, you know what? And you told me this a long time ago. He goes, Paul, you can wear any rank you want. You're the one that's going to have to fight and use it. You know, any student can have anything they want. You can witness an exam and a board. Witness it. Don't sign it as you're giving it to them. If somebody takes you to the test board, I remember a couple of years ago you told me this, and you said, because if you sign it as the person mandating it, it's going to reflect on you. You can witness whatever. Yeah, witness the exam, but that person better. You're not the one fighting. That person's the one fighting. And you said, and the person fighting in the street gets their butt whipped. They're going to tell them, who'd you learn from? They learned from this guy. That's a reflection. People need to understand that, you know? And people give certificates and rank and so on and so forth down the line. Wait a minute, that's your name that's going out there. Because if he gets his butt whipped, they're going to say, who'd you learn from? Paul Buitron or GM Planas, or you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And that's something that, you know, if you can swallow that one, good for you, you know? Your name's on the certificate for that person thinking that he knows how to fight. He goes out there.
Another story that goes with that is in Texas a long time ago, I used to go into a school up in the Dallas area, and a guy used to bring me in and do, you know, private lessons and whatever, and he kept hemming and hawing and wanting a promotion. I said, I can't promote you. He said, why? I said, you're not working, you're not learning, you don't deserve it. He says, well, I got to get rank somehow. He says, my students are going to pass me up. I said, well, not if you quit promoting them, they won't. He said, you're the one promoting them. He said, well, no, you promoted them. I said, no. I said, wait a minute. I never promoted any of your guys. You brought me in to teach you and watch you do a test. And I watched you do a test, and you promoted them. And I said, you get one of those certificates. So I got it out. I said, did you see the line I signed on? What does it say? It says witness. It doesn't say examiner or whatever. Witness. I'll go to court and swear, yes, judge, I swear I witnessed him do it. Yes, I witnessed it, but I didn't do it. I just signed as I saw him do it. See, so what line are you signing, instructor or witness? See?
Yeah.
And when you sign instructor, they're a reflection of you, but anybody can witness. See?
Yeah. No, you're absolutely correct, and people do not understand that, you know. And I was invited to a test here locally last year, and the guys kind of said, Paul, we're going to be doing a black belt. Would you come in here? And sure, and I'm in the middle of the exam, and I'm just sitting down there enjoying the day, you know. I'm not going to say good, bad, or what. I'm just a witness. So I thought I was being the witness until the certificates came back, and he goes, you're higher in karate than I am, so why don't you sign these certificates as you're giving it to them? I said, no, I'm not. They're not my students. They're yours. Mm-hmm. You want to give each one of these guys black belt? That's on you. I mean, I'll witness it. I'm not going to sign it. He kind of got mad. I said, you sign it. Yeah. Boy, it's, you know, that's your students.
Yeah. Another saying I have on that is that no rank is all rank is worthless unless it's respected. Right. You know, no matter what you wear, and if it's not respected, it doesn't matter. You know.
You know, there was a time in certain arts, there was no rank. You either the teacher or the student.
Well, I say that all the time. What belt was Bruce Lee?
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people out there that say, how was he? Who ranked him? He was either a student or the teacher, and that's just the way it was.
Yeah.
Ranks and institutions come once federations and associations get formed.
Yeah, it just goes back how far you'd have to check, but you know, like who ranked Kwai Chang Caine? You know what I mean? Or, you know, these people are going way, way back. You know, there was no rank, you just, you know, like it's an old saying, in China, you're not going to have a student unless you've got at least 25 years of experience. And then they might say, well, that guy might know a little something to teach me. But they're going on the time, not the rank that he's wearing. You know, if he's been training 25 years, he might know a little something. So we'll check him out, you know. But that's it. That's why the time requirements are put on the belts, you know. Takes time. That's what so it burns in, soaks in, and you may have time to learn and work on something. You know, other people they will go home and mark the calendar. You know, and in 2 years or 3 years, I'll be eligible for my next rank, and they don't put their gi on, you know, again, and they forget more than they learn. You know, when they come back, and hey, he wants a promotion. You know, it's like there's guys I've heard about in different parts of the world, in Europe, guys hadn't had a gi on in 30 years. Known fact, they hadn't had a gi on in 30 years, brought people in to promote them to high-ranking black belts, you know, and what for? It's just use the figurehead, but they can't do anything anymore. Don't, you know, forgot more than they ever learned, but they got the belt, they got the rank, you know. What is it respected? Maybe by some, but not by some either. They're not going to respect it.
You know, and it's and that's what it boils down to. All right. You're going to sign, you're going to give that rank to that person there. It's your name. What it boils down to is your name. And if that person goes out there, gets beaten in the street, people are going to say, he trained him. It's his fault.
Yeah, they do, but maybe they shouldn't sometimes, you know.
You know what I'm saying? But you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah, but I say this too. I says heavyweight championship of the world tonight. Both 6'5", 280 pounds, 57 knockouts each. Boy, it's going to be a great fight. There's probably going to be a winner and a loser. Who's going to win?
And who's
the lucky one? The lucky one. You know, he had a misread, a bad day, whatever. They fight again next week, and the other guy wins.
Sure.
So, you know, that's part of it. But the other part, can the guy do something, or can't he do something? That's different than having two well-trained, equal fighters.
Inside the ring. If you have two equal fighters there, it's the one that's going to win is the one that counters the most.
Yeah, the lucky one.
The lucky one, you know. And in the ring,
that's what we say. What makes you win in the fight in the first place is, you know, guts and a lot of luck. Yeah. Guts and a lot of luck. You know, you were lucky.
Jack Dempsey's favorite saying was when he was asked, "What is a secret about fighting?" And he goes, "Who gets there firstest with the mostest."
Yeah, firstest with the mostest.
You know, and that's absolutely correct. What would you say or counsel people that are looking into martial arts? Somebody that's looking for martial arts, somebody that says, you know what, I need training. What do you suggest for them to do?
It's really hard nowadays to find a school that's really up to snuff in teaching that. But the first time we was ask the student, why? Why do you want to learn this? I want to learn how to defend myself. Okay, then you really got to learn how to fight. Now, I don't think you got it in you. I don't think you got a mean streak, a mean bone in your body, as they say. You know, so you know it's going to be very. You can prove me wrong, but you know, you can't make a person out of a Salzy or a little Sherman, you know, and make a killer out of him. You know, if he doesn't have it in him in the first place, he'll never be able to use it. So if you got that, then you got a chance. But then you got to look for a school and work like you mean it. You know, like why you really want to do this. You know, there's an old saying. You know, you can tell in the old days when a lot of girls would come into the schools. You say some of them are training hard, some of them don't. Just say, that girl training hard, man. She's working her butt off. I bet she's been jumped before. She's had trouble. So you ask them, hey, you ever had a problem in the street? Yeah, I've been jumped, you know, raped, whatever. It ain't going to happen again. That's it shows in your attitude and your training, you know. And that's what it takes, you know. It's not going to happen to me, or you're just taking up space or whatever. And it won't be there. You know, it won't be there. The ones when I'm working with somebody that I know has a real interest and a real desire to learn and working hard, I'll spend all day on the mat with them, and they're going to drive me off the mat. But I'm on the mat with some people, you know, that have no interest, no desire, just taking up space. I said, God, when's this fast over, you know? Get this over with, you know. But the ones that want it, the good ones, few and far between, but that's the ones that I'm not a clock watcher with, you know. Not usually anyway, but you know, just trying to get the job done or teach the art for what it is. You know.
Yeah. Absolutely correct. You know, there's a lot of things to ponder on. And I want to thank you for your tutelage. I want to thank you for coming out here and expressing yourself today.
No,
and let's continue going.
Glad to do it.
And it's always a pleasure having you here in Laredo. And we're more like family than anything else, you know. You know, so and we all do the same things. You know, we hunt knives and so on and so forth.
Yeah, that's what we tell people is you know, all the Chinese terms are family terms. You know,
yeah.
Like everybody, the students are your brothers and sisters, older brother, older sister, younger. You know, depending who started it before you, and the sifu or the father teacher, or that's the daddy or the head of the system. You know. All the terms are family related in the Chinese side, so you become family. Just like Hawaii is the same. You know, I miss Hawaii a lot, but everything over there is same thing. You know, family related. Once you're accepted in the family, you become uncle this or uncle that, and when you get that title, you know you're in. You've been accepted.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. And you know, first time I met you, I was 18 years old. You were doing a seminar over there with Greg and Tommy Burks and those guys over in Grand Prairie.
That's too long ago for me to remember.
And I remember Keith came out there and he goes, "Oh, we're going to go meet Huck." And we went out there and we went to go eat at a Vietnamese restaurant. That was the first time I met. That's 32 years ago
I can't remember last week, less than 30-some years ago.
now. Again, thank you.
Okay, Paul.
And you guys out there, you guys be safe, especially this weekend. No drinking and driving. Let's do something else. We've been seeing a lot of people text and drive. Be careful. And until next time, peace.